What's up, everyone? It's me, Croc, and welcome back for RimWorld episode 3 of the Let's Struggle. We're continuing off our journey with things at the base going pretty standard, honestly. I'm starting to figure out the game a little bit more finally. I'm figuring out how to get the corpses out and how to manage all of our stockpiles. In the last episode, we ended up meeting Weston, a man in black who saved Greg and Odie when they were both knocked out unconscious, ready to die. As well as we got this other recruit named Termite, so we're now up to 4 colonists. Thank you to everyone who let me know how to make the other stockpile zone. This spot is where I'll manually select all the slate and things like that to go, because that's majority of what's in our current stockpile zone. But the next raid that we would have would be a little bit different. This turned out to be a raid for a relationship. This definitely seemed weird, and when looking into it, it turned out that this was the wife of the man in black, Weston. Looks like the guy left home to go and help our colony. He got sick of his wife. You know, he probably just thought it'd be a better time in life spending it with the boys. So I did have them ready to go and stay on guard and maybe try and recruit them, but of course the stupid bitches ended up wandering into the cave, and immediately both her recruit and Weston's wife herself ends up dying in the cave from all the spiders and insects in there. Now I did want to strip them of their gear and get their gear, as well as bury them, that way Weston didn't feel super depressed. And I did lose the footage where I lured the insects over, but essentially I just got them over here, and the alpaca actually was standing in a perfect spot. The alpaca was basically like a body shield as well as fighting the insects. It made this a shit ton easier. They're really hard to fight, and I did die one time and had to reload a save, so defeating them like that was definitely the best strategy. With only one left too near the fan, it was just a matter of knocking him out, and then we were all good and the base was defended. We also had no more of the insects left, and since we had little to no food, I figured it'd probably be good to check out and see if we can actually eat these insects, and it turns out we can. Now a trader ended up coming by, but the only thing he had was weapons. But I did end up buying a chain shotgun off of him. This will be very helpful, seeing as we're just using revolvers and bolt rifles. And while Odie was healing the alpaca, I could see that he ended up befriending the alpaca, naming him Shakespeare, so the alpaca became Odie's pet. That was very nice, you know, very wholesome. A fucking second later, the alpaca dies in Odie's arms, bruh. It's fucking tragic. Yeah, that shit was sad, honestly. So now Odie's just a little bit more negative for the next few days, so it didn't even help us out defending alpaca and just made us more depressed. But the next building I wanted to get to constructing was a hospital. I don't really know how to make one of these, and I don't suggest you do it like I did because it's not good. Lots of our barn animals were getting diseases and dying from infections, so I didn't want to have that spread to any of our human people. And when one of the caravans was nearby, this guy got knocked out for some reason and they left him here. So I had them rescue him and put him into a bed. Not capture him, just rescue him. This does help us out. He won't join our group, and we do use a little bit of materials, but this improves our relationships with that faction of the caravan. As well as another random event, there being a guy named Grandpa just chilling out in the wilderness, now knocked out. I really did want to recruit Grandpa, honestly, so I made sure to try and save him. Then to set up the hospital, I would just simply be putting 4 beds in there and assigning them as medical beds. That way when our people are injured, they'll prioritize using these beds over their own beds. That way they can all be healed up pretty easily and we don't have to do a bunch of running around. But after this, a prisoner ended up calling us from somewhere. He wasn't too far away from our camp, and it turned out that he was being held hostage by one lonely bandit. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity to go save him and then hopefully have him join the colony with us. Seeing as Grandpa had recovered from his wounds and was deciding to leave, as well as the shopkeeper leaving with our relationships going up at least, I did lose out on the new recruits, so I definitely wanted to grab him. Greg and Termite would go there as I had confidence in just them taking out the place, and send them with a little bit of food. They would start their journey over to the camp. While they were traveling over there, I was attempting to sort out our power issue by adding in another wooden furnace and trying to get some more power research stuff going on later on. Once arriving at the prisoner camp though, we could see the 50-year-old man locked inside of a room with some other goods in there. Along with that, there was a teenage girl just wandering outside, I guess the bandit. Alright, like, how do you get fucking kidnapped by a teenage girl, bro? You're in your 50s. So that's not a good sign for him, but on the bright side, I wanted to at least knock out this girl and then maybe try and recruit her. We landed a few lucky shots with the shotgun shells and didn't end up killing her, just knocking her out. So this would let us go and raid the base. By breaking open the first door, I could see the first building is just a bunch of beds, so somewhere to host prisoners or some shit. And then once breaking into the other building, we could go and save Matthew. Immediately when talking to him, he just joins her colony, and with that, we now have 5 colonists, which is nice. I go and select all the food, and she tried to get up and run away, so I had to knock her out again. She was even more injured, but with leaving, I would take her as well with us. That way we could try and bring her back to the base and make her a prisoner. If we end up making her a prisoner and getting her to join us, then we'll be at 6 recruits, and I'm sure there'll be some great dialogue between the two. A special event happened too, where these weird animals showed up, the thrumbos. I didn't kill them, and I couldn't tame them, unfortunately, so I just let them be and let them wander. Pretty cool, though, and kind of makes me more interested in the animals in this game. But once they did arrive back at the base, Greg had inspired recruitment. This is some kind of lucky thing where he'll recruit anyone no matter what their chances. But Rat went fucking berserk right when we got back. She didn't even get to her cell yet, and she already fucked off and tried to kill Tortoise. Now, Tortoise ended up beating her up pretty fucking bad, if I'm going to be honest. So I sent the first priority to be Greg to go and capture her again and try and save her. So first I put her in the prisoner bed, and then by clicking her and going into the prisoner tab, I can go to recruit instead of nothing. And that's what I really want, because once Greg goes and talks to her, he'll recruit her no matter what. We had some more caravans show up, and I have these little statues that Weston's been making, and they're selling for about 100 each. Now that we had more recruits too, I wanted to build some more buildings or houses for them. So I started to put in 2 new houses. I do have to mine out a good area of this in order to do this, but that area is at least steel. As well as it only took a day for Greg to get around to talking to the girl and then recruiting her. So now Rat had joined the team and was a part of our colony. It was very exciting, and we now had 6 recruits, so that was pretty good. She immediately went and got dressed, and I was very excited. How is this dialogue going to work out between Matthew and the teenage girl that kidnapped him? I'm sure it's going to be very interesting, and I was really excited for it. Fucking minutes later, she died. To be frank, she died because of a tortoise infection, and we were healing her at the time, but she died during being healed. So RIP Rat, we will remember you. We had to move on with our lives though and attend to the gardens, as we had barely any food really, and there was a lot of problems with people going in manic states, you know, basically going fucking insane because they're either starving or miserable. Along with that, we had a nuclear fallout, which is exactly what it fucking sounds like. It was a nuclear fallout. The game turned to Fallout for a few days, and whenever people were outside, they got radiated. So that just led to everybody getting sick and having to be in fucking hospital beds for majority of the time. We had 5 recruits, and 3 of them were all in the hospital beds. Greg at one point got knocked out, and he was left outside. But because everybody was too fucking busy sleeping, they didn't get him for another few hours. I mean, I think this colony's doing their best. I fucking don't know. Next up, though, I finally wanted to deconstruct this little rubble structure behind us, and it's definitely a lot less work than I thought it would have been. For anyone who's still learning RimWorld, I'll show you something I learned while recording. If you go into the wildlife tab over here, you can see all the animals, and if you go under where the bow is and then give that a check mark, that will mean your colony will start to hunt that animal. This is very good for seeing all the types of animals that are on the map, as well as getting food, as after I did this, within a day they already started slaughtering boars, collecting food, and then making it into food, which was really nice. It saves you from having to go around the map and try and click on them, so that's good. I also learned that crops can get fucking infected somehow. A lot of our potatoes got infected with, I don't know, some herpes or some shit, so I had to go and de-harvest all of them, basically cut them all down and then replant the potatoes. Very unfortunate because we were pretty hungry at this time. I also noticed the smoke leaf that we have and the psychoid plants that we're growing do deteriorate in our normal storage. So I have to put them into a storage with a cooler. I either have to make a separate cooler or put them into the cooler that we're using for now. So I did exactly that and try to move them as fast as possible. This is when I noticed Rat's dead body was on the fucking table. I don't know why it's there or what happened to it, but I hope to God no one fucking ate it. I looked around and it turned out Weston had a corpse obsession. So he'd be one to dig up corpses and show people off the corpse he found. I'm guessing that's where he got it, I hope. But on the bright side, finally we had a good event. Some ambrosias popped up. I have no idea what these are, but apparently they're rare and good. And after a few days, we would have yet another raid. Now this one wasn't too bad. Only another 2 bandits. They are getting a little bit more armored and bigger in packs, but we took down the first one relatively easy and then moved on to the second one. The second guy didn't get knocked out, so I actually decided to capture him and throw him into prison. That way we can try and recruit him. Now, he had a very low recruitment chance, and Greg doesn't have that inspiration ability as of this moment. But moving on, after months of being here, we finally got trees researched so we could start going into drug production and other things. It's been so hard to do research with all the building and shit, and with a prisoner being very low of a chance that we would actually be able to recruit him, I knew I had to make him an actual prison cell. After drug production was done, I moved on to batteries and then solar panels. That way I can start to work towards getting some more power sources set up. The wind turbines aren't too good, and when we run out of wood, it really fucks us over because food starts to spoil. But along with that, I wanted to put in this new device that I had found in the crafting menu. This thing is like a cremator, so we'll be able to put corpses in there and it'll turn them to ash. This saves us from having to put fucking graves everywhere, as graves do take up quite a lot of room. And the next thing I wanted to make was an actual prisoner barracks, somewhere to host the prisoners where it isn't just a tiny ass cell. You want to do this just that way it makes their moods a little bit more improved and they won't want to break out and shit like that. Now the next day I decided to go and decrease some of the elephant population, as there was a lot of them, and even though they are pretty big, they aren't too hard to take out. Greg was able to get a lot of them with his shotgun pretty easily. But once we start butchering them, you'll see that the elephants drop an insane amount of meat, like a really good amount, but too much for us to even store in this place alone. And after we're already full and they had 2 more elephants to go to slaughter, I knew I had to make another cooler. This place isn't going to be double walled, but it's going to at least do for now. But once that place is set up, we can start to put food in there. I really don't want it to go to waste, as you guys saw. It can just burn or disappear in a fucking heartbeat. With that out of the way though, I could go back to working on the prisoner barracks. Now inside of here, I wanted to put down a few beds to start with, and then I received a mission called Saving Enslan. Just some random girl that needed to be saved. Her colony couldn't save her, but if we save her, she'll join our group. So I would be doing that, but first I just wanted to make sure we could get some entertainment for them. So putting in a billiards table apparently lets them train for shooting, and then I put in a pool table and a chess table and surround them with chairs. This should hopefully increase the chance of us recruiting these prisoners and keeping them content. But then I selected Greg and Maxwell to go out over to the girl that was asking for help to see if they could save her. They only had about 7 days to do so, and it wasn't too far, so I wanted to do it as quick as possible. Fortunately though, right when they left, the prisoner decided to go on a fucking rampage. He started beating up Weston, so Odie and Weston both had to beat him down and then bring him back to the cell. Just when I think things were going smooth, it just goes to shit, you know? Going on from that though, I wanted to set up yet another building. This place, I'll be putting batteries in here to store extra power. That way if our power sources ever go out during the night or something, or when wind isn't blowing, we'll be able to have backup batteries to use. But a day later, they finally arrived at the girl, and there wasn't even a bandit anywhere around here, which was really nice. We're able to take her as well as the goods that were left there and get out of the place to head back to Greg's Dankuary. That's when just about a day later, they were ambushed by a bandit who wanted Greg's hat. Greg wasn't going to take off his hat for a fucking degenerate though, so they obviously went to war against her. And with them winning, they decided instead of leaving her there, they would actually take her back to the base in order to make her prisoner and then try and recruit her. We still really need a lot more recruits honestly, and this will do pretty well. We already saved the other girl, so once arriving back home, we had brought back 2 additional people to the base, which is pretty fire if you ask me. And the rest of the time, a few caravans would drop by and I'd sell them some goods and get some goods, but other than that, everything went pretty smooth for the rest of a few minutes. That's where I'm ending off the episode though. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of a RimWorld Let's Struggle. If you did, make sure you leave a like and a comment on it. I really do appreciate all the support and tips you guys have been giving me and others in the comment section, and I hope to bring you guys some more of this soon. Till then though, have a good one and peace.